Hello and welcome to Supporting Carers Training. Thank you for joining us today. The aim of today's training is to help professionals and people interacting with carers within their client groups, to support carers to have a general awareness of who they are. But this is open to the public. Anybody is welcome to watch this. And if you have any questions, then do get in touch. We will be running a separate course for supporting carers within the workplace. So if you're an employer looking to support carers within your workforce, we will be running a separate session on that. But it will cover many of the same things that we're looking at today. So today will still be of use to you. So the purpose of today's training then, so firstly we're trying to raise awareness of who carers are. A lot of people don't know what we mean by the term carer, and so we're aiming to raise awareness of that. We're looking at increasing the identification of unpaid carers within our communities. We want to enable you to proactively engage with carers that you may interact with on a daily basis. And we want to improve access to information and support that's available to carers. As an organisation, there is only so much we can do to support carers, and we want to make sure that our communities are aware of who carers are and how to support them so that carers can get the support that they need at the time that they need it. Our learning objectives today then. So what are we hoping you'll know by the end of the session? So you should be able to describe what is meant by the term carer, identify carers who use your service and know the type of roles that they undertake, describe the challenges that carers face and the support they may require, be able to create an action plan to further improve your service for carers. Now, ideally, we like to deliver this training face-to-face to services one at a time so that we can work with you during a workshop to generate that action plan. Obviously, with the current situation with social isolating, we're not able to do that, but we are able to facilitate telephone calls, video calls, or by email support to you in generating that action plan. And hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll be able to at least make a start on that. So what do we mean by the term carer? So a carer is anyone who cares unpaid for a friend or family member who, due to illness, disability, a mental health problem or an addiction, cannot cope without their support. So when people need support, often before we turn to professionals, before we ask for help, we'll turn to our friends and family to support us. So anyone who's providing that significant support, and the key here is that the person would not be able to cope without that support, that means that they are a carer. So generally this means that people are caring by choice. They don't have to care, they're not being paid to care. They're caring because they care about the person that they're caring for. A young carer then is somebody under the age of 18 who's providing support to a friend or family member. So young carers tend to be looking after people within their immediate family, so parents, siblings, grandparents perhaps, and it may be that they're not the primary carer, but you don't have to be the only person providing care to be a carer. We're doing a lot of work with schools at increasing and improving the identification of young carers within our school systems, and we've seen a huge increase actually in the identification of young carers as a result of that. So there are some common myths about who carers are, and we want to dispel those kind of misconceptions and those myths right now. So you do not have to live with the person that you care for to qualify as a carer. You may actually live quite a way away from the person that you care for. But if you're providing that key support to them, such as organising shopping, maybe internet shopping, cleaning services, medication, organising care, transport, anything at all really that is key to that person's well-being, you are an unpaid carer. You might look after more than one person at a time, which obviously adds to kind of the pressure that's put on you and the time load that you would need to spend looking after people. You might also have paid employment, so just because you're paid in another capacity doesn't mean that you're not an unpaid carer. You're not paid for the care that you provide to the person that you provide the care for. Lots of carers do juggle work and caring. Lots of people have to give up work to care, unfortunately. They're not kind of given the support that they need to continue in employment if that's what they wish to do. And you may not be the only person providing care, so there may be a paid package of care in place through the local authority, private care packages, but just because that's in place doesn't mean you're not also providing additional key support. And it may be that you have more than one friend or family member supporting somebody at a time, but it doesn't mean that but it means that each person in that family is providing care. We hear a lot at the moment about hidden carers. There's a lot of carers that aren't identified. So a hidden carer is simply just somebody who hasn't been identified as a carer yet. Lots of things that make that difficult, which we will discuss in more detail shortly. But a lot of hidden carers tend to be people who see it as part of their role in their relationship to the person they care for. So their role may be as a partner, as a parent, as a child, or a friend or a relative. It can be quite difficult to get people to think of themselves as a carer for several reasons, which I will go into shortly. So why might somebody need a carer? So I'm going to go through some of the main reasons why somebody may need a friend or family member to care for them. It might seem quite self-explanatory, but there may be some things here that you have not thought about before. So chronic or physical illness, frailty. So somebody may be frail and in need of support, but not have a specific condition or a specific diagnosis. Due to an accident or illness, that can be particularly quite challenging because you might become a carer overnight due to a diagnosis, due to an accident or a stroke, for example. Mental health, we see a lot of hidden carers within mental health because there's quite a lot of stigma still around mental health. A lot of people don't want to admit that they need support because of their mental health. So those hidden carers are quite prevalent in the field of mental health. Dementia, we've got an ageing population. A lot of people now are being diagnosed with dementia, and a lot of their friends and family are trying to care for them. Physical disability, a substance misuse issue, so an addiction, which might make somebody unable to cope without support. Perhaps that's emotional support, support to go to appointments, support to prevent relapse, and additional learning needs. Now, there are a whole range of things that might make somebody need a carer. It could be a combination of any of these things. We don't necessarily need to have a diagnosis. There's no threshold to say you're a carer, you're not a carer. If you're providing support to somebody, whether they've got a diagnosis or not, as far as we're concerned, you are a carer. There's no minimum time requirement either for somebody to be a carer. You can care for a couple of hours a week or 24/7 round the clock. Either way, you are a carer. So as you can imagine, there's a whole range of things that a carer may do to support somebody, but we've broken it down into some key tasks here. So a carer might help with medication, whether that's collecting that medication, arranging delivery, storage of medication, giving them the medication, renewing prescriptions, doing repeat prescriptions, or simply just reminding somebody to take their medication if they're reluctant or forgetful. Emotional support, so motivating somebody, listening to them, providing that emotional outlet for somebody who may not be able to cope without that. Transportation, so it could just be general life transportation for somebody who might not be able to use or cope with public transport, for example, or it might be transporting to appointments or social activities. Actually going to appointments with people, organising their appointments, doing all of the admin work, the many admin tasks that can come with that as well, or going to appointments with people to translate for them. So simply translating wouldn't be necessarily a caring responsibility, but if somebody needs somebody with them to translate or to understand what's going on, the person providing that may be a carer. Personal care, so washing, toileting, getting dressed, general daily living, personal maintenance, and household tasks such as cleaning, organising, household maintenance. Shopping, organising the delivery of groceries, or going to collect the groceries, or taking somebody shopping. Mobilising, getting around the house, getting out into the community. Social activities, they can be really key. Some people might think, they're not essential to somebody's health, but actually they're probably really key to somebody's mental well-being, if not their physical well-being, and can really add to somebody's quality of life. And money management, so help with paying bills, banking, etc. So this isn't an exhaustive list, but these are just some key things that a carer might do. Basically, any task that a carer does that the person would struggle to cope without would be a caring responsibility. So we're going to go through some statistics now. So these are UK-wide statistics. So I want you to have a think about what number you would put yourself in here before I reveal what these statistics are. So how many carers do you think there are in the UK? Have a guess in your mind. There are 7 million carers in the UK, and we know that that's a conservative estimate. We know that there are many hidden carers who aren't being counted amongst those carers, and so that figure is likely to be a lot higher. And we know that that figure is set to rise by at least 60% in the next 10 years due to the ageing population and the advances in medical sciences. It's great that people are living for longer, but a lot of those people will need extra support from friends and family to maintain their well-being. So how much money do you think carers save the economy every year? Nobody ever guesses it. It is in the billions. How many billion? It's £132 billion every year is saved by carers. And every year, 6,000 people, every day, 6,000 people become carers in the UK. So that's 6,000 people who may not have the first clue about where to turn to for any support. They may never have expected to become a carer, and they've suddenly found themselves looking after a friend or family member, sometimes without any kind of warning. So caring for somebody can have a huge impact on every area of our lives, really. Emotional, financial, physical, social. Many of those things are exacerbated by the fact that you don't have necessarily the availability or the time to look after your own health and well-being. You have to perhaps reduce the amount of exercise you're taking because you don't have the time to do it. You may not have time to go to your own appointments. Just generally having that kind of pressure on your own time can be quite stressful. And you may overlook your own health needs because you're too focused on the person or people that you care for to be able to go to your own appointments or to have time for self-care. Financially, a lot of people have to give up work for caring or perhaps take jobs that are less well paid or part-time to be able to juggle kind of the pressures from caring and their career at the same time. Caring can affect your relationships with other people. It might be difficult to maintain relationships with people outside of your care. So to put this into perspective, in a survey conducted by Carers UK in 2017, 40% of carers said that they hadn't had a single day off in over a year. So if you can imagine having a job where you didn't have a day off for over a year, and think about how exhausted or how burnt out you might feel at the end of that, that might give you some idea as to how some carers might feel. It's really important to acknowledge that there are many benefits to caring, having job satisfaction or the satisfaction of knowing that you're doing a good job, being able to express love to the person that you are caring for. Being able to give back is really rewarding. Knowing that you are making a difference to someone's life is something that a lot of people want to achieve and strive to achieve throughout their lives. It can help strengthen relationships. It can help bring families together. Having to care for that one person can make a lot of people put other differences aside, or other people make sure that they have regular contact with their family members. Help build on skills and knowledge. Maybe you may find yourself doing things you've never done before. Knowing that there is a quality of care is really important. A lot of people worry about care being taken away from them. So if carers are coming in, or if someone gets taken into a home or some sort of residential setting, you don't know what sort of care that person is getting. You can never be fully 100% confident of the quality of that care. If you're delivering it yourself, you know exactly what you're delivering. And it can give people a sense of purpose. You're getting up every day to care for somebody else, and that can be really rewarding. What support do carers need? Well, it could be anything really, and the best way to find out what help a carer needs is to ask them. It may be that you look at a situation and think that somebody wants help with something or needs help with something, but that might not be something that they're ready to accept help with, or it might not be something that they actually genuinely want help with. But just to give you an idea of some of the things that carers might need support with, so information. A lot of carers, 6,000 people become carers every single day in the UK. That's over 2 million people every year who find themselves caring. They may never have cared before. They may never have needed to understand what support is available to carers before. And so just giving them that information or signposting them to their local service is probably the biggest thing that you can help a carer with. They may need help with benefits and finance and navigating that system. They might need a break. The biggest thing we hear from carers is that they need a break. They might need help with retaining employment or getting employment. It might be really important to somebody's physical, mental, overall well-being to maintain employment, to have a life outside of their caring role, to have a purpose outside of their caring role, or financially it may be necessary for that carer to work. Any help that people can give carers to continue working or to find work in the first place would be really beneficial to a lot of carers. They might need emotional support. It can be really affect somebody's mental health to care. So being able to have somebody to talk to, being able to feel like they are valued, listened to, heard is really important. And practical help with daily tasks, actually taking that load off by literally giving somebody time to do something else, to look after themselves, to do another caring responsibility. Now, one of the biggest things we hear from carers, one of the biggest reasons why a lot of carers don't identify themselves as a carer is they literally just don't think they are a carer. They see it as perhaps part of their everyday role. So I'm not a carer, I'm a wife, I'm a child, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a neighbour. And because people aren't identifying themselves as carers, there's a real limit to how much support that they're then getting. Another reason that carers don't get identified is that perhaps the person that they're caring for doesn't want to accept the label of the person that's caring for them as a carer. It can be quite difficult to talk to a carer about their caring role in front of the person that they care for, and we recommend wherever possible to have that conversation away from the person that they care for. A lot of carers are worried that if they say I'm caring for this person or that they need help with that people will think they're not coping. Another reason that carers often don't identify themselves as carers or don't say that they are perhaps struggling with their caring role is that they're worried what will happen as a result of that. So they're worried perhaps that the person they care for may get taken into residential care, or that social services may put something in place that they're not happy with, such as carers coming into the home. And they're worried about just saying I'm not coping, because we never like to admit that we are struggling or that we can't cope. Because that could have a real impact on the relationship with the person they care for as well. How do we overcome these barriers then? So informing people of what an unpaid carer is will be really helpful, because you'll be helping people passively to identify themselves as a carer rather than perhaps directly saying to them, are you a carer? It may be that you can do that, but obviously pick your timings. Talking to carers away from the person that they care for will give them the opportunity to be open and honest about anything that they perhaps need help with. Encouraging the carer to think about the benefits of asking for help rather than the negatives, and really dispelling any myths about what a carer's assessment is, which I'll talk about now. A carer's assessment then is the local authority's legal statutory duty to provide support to carers. So where it's recognised that a carer needs support or a carer has asked for support, they have to actively offer a carer's needs assessment. So it's meant to be a gateway to support provided by the local authority or within their local area. And it is not an assessment of the carer's competency. So the word assessment puts a lot of carers off asking for an assessment, which is a real shame, because what it's meant to do is assess what they need support with or what they could benefit from, rather than assessing whether or not they're doing a good job. So we really need to inform carers that actually this is meant to be a supportive measure and not a way of assessing their abilities. It should look at how caring affects every single aspect of the carer's life, and then signpost them to relevant services to support them in whatever ways that they need support. It's an opportunity for carers to express what they're willing to do and what would help them. It's also an opportunity for the carer to say, I am not willing to do A, B, and C. And it's really important that carers know that they have the right to say that they're not willing to do something, because if they weren't ultimately providing that support, then the local authority would have to anyway. Unpaid carers are saving the local authorities shed loads of money every single year. So the least they can do is offer them support with any tasks that perhaps they're finding difficult or that they're not willing to do. A carer's assessment can be requested at any time, and a reassessment can be requested at any time. So if the needs of the person they care for change or the carer's own circumstances change, then they can ask for a reassessment at any time. And it can be done at the same time as the needs assessment of the person that they care for. But it should, as good practice, be done as a separate assessment, because the carer has the right to that assessment themselves. Requesting a carer's assessment is different depending on what region you live in. So the best thing you can do is ask your local authority. Perhaps go to their website and just search for a carers assessment. Every local authority has a duty to provide that assessment. So every local authority should have details on how you obtain that assessment on their website. Or you can just simply call their local adult social services department and ask for a carers assessment, and they should be able to tell you exactly how you do that. The only benefit that carers are entitled to within their own right is carers allowance. And there are a number of criteria that a carer would have to meet to be able to claim that. So the first thing is that the person they care for must get a qualifying disability benefit. At the moment, that is personal independence payment and disability living allowance, I believe. So if the person you're caring for isn't claiming those for any reason, then you aren't entitled to carers allowance. So it may be that the person you're caring for doesn't have a diagnosis yet. It may be that they haven't had the application process go through for PIP or DLA, and that can take quite some time. Or it might be that that benefit has been wrongly taken away from them when you go through the appeals process. In the interim period, you can't claim carers allowance, which is massively unfair. We've had many cases of people caring for somebody who is perhaps in denial about their diagnosis, or doesn't want to claim benefits for some reason, whether that be pride or paranoia. Very many reasons why somebody wouldn't want to claim a benefit, but that means that the carer can then not claim carers allowance, so it's very unfair. You care for someone at least 35 hours a week, so you have to be providing the equivalent of a full-time job's worth of care. You cannot be in full-time education, and you can't earn, if you do work, you can't earn over £120 a week after deductions. So your take-home pay cannot be more than £120 a week. And £120 a week isn't very much money. On top of that, just to add kind of the financial pressures that a carer may be facing, that carers allowance is only paid at about £65 a week, just under. And if you were earning £65 a week for working 35 hours, which is the minimum amount of time that you must be caring to get carers allowance, you'd be earning about £1.80 an hour. Maths isn't my strong point, but I'm sure somebody somewhere can work that out. So it is very minimal amount of money. It's, to a lot of people, £65 a week is a significant amount of money, but it's nowhere near as much as I'm sure you'll agree carers should be getting. So we want you to take some time now to think about what you can do as a person, as a professional, within your own life, within your professional life, to support carers. Now, normally we'd run this as a workshop, so we would be asking you as a group or as a service to think about what you can do more to support carers. So if you can, we'd like you to pause the video now and think about what you can do to support carers. We will be talking you through some options in a minute. So the first thing you can do to help carers is help them identify themselves as a carer. That's often the first way of getting a carer support. It's the first way of them accessing any support that's available to them. Because if you're not aware that you are a carer, then you're not going to be looking for support services for carers. You might not be accessing carers allowance. You might not be having that carers needs assessment that you might actually really need. And you might not be looking at what support's available to you or thinking that you need any support at all. Some other things you can do, so signposting carers to help that's available within your local area. We'd really encourage you after the session to find out what is available within your region. Most regions have a carer support service in place, often run by the local authority or by a third sector organisation. Providing emotional support, so caring for somebody else and putting somebody else's needs before your own on a regular basis can be quite emotionally demanding. But on top of that, you're caring for a person that you care about who has a condition. Sometimes that might be a really serious condition, it might be a progressive condition, there might not be any kind of end in sight, or there may be an end in sight, and that in itself can be really emotional. So if you're caring for somebody with something progressive like dementia or a neurological condition, then it can be really difficult to see your loved one go through that, but also to worry about what the future might hold for you and for them. Offering somebody that emotional support and that opportunity to talk can be really beneficial, to really be listened to and heard. Social opportunities, or the opportunity to build kind of social networks through activities that you provide, whether that's with the person they care for or without. We'd recommend, if you're putting on activities, to offer the opportunity for both carers to have time with other carers by themselves, but also to have the opportunity to socialise with the person they care for. So we see that, the opportunity to socialise with the people that people care for. So dementia cafes are a really good example of that. So you can take the person along that you care for with you, but you also get the opportunity to talk to other carers whilst you're there in an environment that you're not going to be judged for anything that you or the person that you care for does. Having a break is really essential to a carer's well-being. Often carers might not have the opportunity for a break, or they may not take the opportunities for breaks because perhaps they feel guilty or they feel kind of duty bound to stay with the person they care for. So it's really important to encourage carers to take a break, or to think about ways that they could get a break if they don't have the opportunity for it. Information and advice, so giving them information and advice on what's available, rather than, we're not telling you to give people advice on what to do, because nobody really wants to hear that, let's be honest. And encouraging the carer to take care of their own needs. So often carers don't attend their own appointments, they don't care for their own health, because they are caring for somebody else and they put somebody else's needs first. So we all need to take time out of whatever our roles are sometimes to look after ourselves, and it's really important that we encourage carers to do that. So many of you are listening today because the service that you work for is taking part in the Carer Friendly accreditation. So Carer Friendly is one of the ways that you can look at what you are doing to support carers and do some more to support carers, and B, get some recognition for what you are already doing for carers. Our mission now for Carer Friendly is to make sure that support and information for carers is widely available, to help carers get the information and support that they need at the time that they need it. We recognise that there is only so much that we can do, there is only so much that other carers organisations can do, the local authorities can do to support carers. For carers to get the most support, the best support at the time that they need it, we need our whole community to be aware of who carers are and what support is available to them, so that carers are more likely to access the support that they need sooner rather than later. If you are taking part in the Carer Friendly process, or you are considering it, just to give you an overview of what that process looks like. So initially we'd send you through some documents with the criteria and some examples of how you can meet those criteria, and some materials to help you meet those criteria. You'd then do an initial self-assessment, and you'd contact us to arrange a meeting so that we could work with you to create a bespoke action plan for your service. So we'd really work with you to identify kind of what are you already doing and what could you do more to reach. There are 3 levels of the accreditation, so there's bronze, silver and gold. And how can you reach that gold standard if that's what you're aiming for, and where are you now? So we'd work with you to create an action plan of how you were going to get to the next level. We'd then support you in training your staff. So we'd run sessions like this. Ideally, like I said, we'd run these face to face. And we would help you to meet the criteria by providing you with posters and materials and ideas that would help you meet those criteria. You then put together a portfolio of evidence, which would then go to our panel of carers, and it's carers who would decide whether or not you'd met those criteria. You'd then get some feedback from that panel on what you're doing well, what you could do better, or what you could do more to support carers. And you then get the opportunity to progress to the next stage, or if you've already gone in at gold, then we would just be providing you with the recognition. So we would be providing recognition to any service taking part of this at every stage of the process. We want to really shout about people that are doing work to support carers. So if you're already doing something to support carers, do let us know. We really want to celebrate the positive, especially in today's current climate. It's really important that we focus on what people are doing well to support carers. To give you some examples then of services that have already taken part in Carer Friendly. So this is the lovely Jane from the University Hospital of Wales. She works on a haematology ward, and the ward is a hub for blood cancer treatment for all of Wales. So people come from all over Wales to have their treatment for their blood cancer. So Jane and her colleagues recognised that a lot of carers were under a lot of pressure in terms of visiting. Some of them live quite far away. And often they were caring, they were working, they were trying to keep finances afloat whilst the person that they cared for was not able to work. So Jane and her colleagues put on a coffee session for carers once a month. They ran a session, it's very well received, they got some excellent feedback on it, and Jane and her colleagues were put forward as a carer friendly ward by their health board. And to get the recognition for what they were doing. So we went in and talked to them about what they were already doing. We provided some materials to do more to help carers identify themselves as carers and provided some staff training. As a result, James Ward got bronze accreditation and they're now working towards silver. These are the lovely people at Pedal Power in Cardiff. They are a wonderful organisation that provide opportunities for cycling for everybody. They have a lot of adapted bikes for people with physical or mental disabilities, and they provide opportunities for carers to come together. They provide carers sessions as well through another organisation, and they have a beautiful cafe attached to the premises where a lot of carers might come bring the person that they care for to go on their special sessions, and the carer might come in and have a cup of coffee. And so they recognised there was a real opportunity for them to support the carers when they were within their premises. And so prior to that, they had been supporting carers, but they hadn't really kind of formally addressed anything that they'd been doing. So we worked with them to look at kind of how are you supporting carers? How can we support you to do more to support carers? And as a result, they worked through Carer Friendly. They're now silver accredited, and they are going to be starting to work through gold when they're able to. We're coming towards the end of our session now, actually. We've given you an overview of who carers are and what support they may need, and an idea of what Carer Friendly entails. So the next steps then would be for you to email us so you can get your certificate. We will send you a certificate to say that you've completed this, and if you've got to this slide then you have completed the training. So if you email us, we are hello@carerfriendly.co.uk. That's hello@carerfriendly.co.uk. We will send you a certificate. You can add that to your portfolio. You can also ask us to give you some materials that you can display within your service, or maybe put on your website, or however you would wish to display them at the moment. And we will send those over to you, and you can talk to your manager about becoming Carer Friendly if you aren't already working towards that. We're more than happy to hear from anybody. There is funding available in different parts of Wales at the moment, so if you are in Wales and you'd like to know what funding's available in your area, then please do ask. Arrange for us to come and do some interactive training with your team. So like I said at the start of this is a very basic training. We would prefer to deliver this face to face so we can really workshop with you on what you can do more to support carers and what are you already doing. It's always better to get people together to help generate some more ideas. So do contact us if you'd like us to do that, and we'll try and arrange that for a few months' time when hopefully we'll be able to start delivering it. Contact any carers you know and check in on them. It's a really difficult time for carers. It's a really difficult time for everybody, but especially if you're caring for somebody. Even if you're not able to actually visit the person that you care for if you don't live with them, it's really difficult because you're worried about the impact that might be having. So if you know any carers, or there are any carers that interact with your service regularly, then just give them a call and let them know you're thinking about them. It can have a real positive impact on their well-being just to have that opportunity to talk. And do follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We are at Carer Friendly on Twitter. Facebook is just facebook.com/Carer Friendly. And you can get then updates through that on what we're doing and what other services are doing to support carers. We're trying to make it a real ground for positivity and really celebrating the positive that people are doing at the moment. So I am Sian Solkeld. I am the Carer Friendly Manager, so do feel free to call me or email me at any time, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And that is the end of today's session. So thank you very much for coming along. Like I said, do email us for your certificate. And if you've got any questions, then you are welcome to ask them in our live Q&A. More details will follow.